Question 2 from Lavanya. I'm using Screaming Frog to scan my website. That's awesome. How can you tell Google not to scan certain pages? Or is the current term indexing? For example, I'm seeing a disclaimer, cookie and privacy policy, etc. come up when scanned. I'm trying to redo my sitemap for Google search since I changed a lot of pages. So first of all, I'm really glad you're using Screaming Frog. Screaming Frog is one of my favorite tools. And for those of you who don't know what Screaming Frog is, it's a crawler that you can use to crawl and visit every page of your website that resembles the way Google might crawl your website. And so as it crawls your website, it will tell you all kinds of information, including, hey, you referenced a page, but the page doesn't exist anymore. Hey, this title tag on this page is too long or too short. Hey, you have a canonical tag, but you also have a no index tag on this page. That's a contradiction. There's all kinds of really wonderful things you can do with this. So I'm really glad, Lavanya, you're doing this. This is really good. You ask, how can you tell Google not to scan certain pages? Do you mean, how do you tell Screaming Frog not to crawl certain pages? Or Google?
I thought whatever Screaming Frog pulled up, that's the same thing that Google pulls up.
Okay. So first of all, let's make a distinction. Screaming Frog is a crawler like Google has a crawler, but it is not necessarily the same.
Oh.
However, if you're finding a page with Screaming Frog, it's likely that Google can find it as well.
Mm-hmm.
And vice versa. If Screaming Frog doesn't find a page, it might be that Google can't find that page. So if you're asking about certain pages like your disclaimer, your cookie, your privacy policy that you don't necessarily want Google to discover, but Screaming Frog is, so I suspect Google is as well.
Uh-huh.
Okay. So first of all, there is a really easy way to tell Google and Screaming Frog, presumably, not to crawl a particular page, and that is by adding the no index meta tag to the page.
Oh.
If you're using WordPress and you're using the Yoast plugin, you can open up the page, go to advanced settings in Yoast, and say, should Google be able to crawl this page? And you say, drop down, no.
Oh, okay.
This does a couple things. It adds the no index tag to the page, but it also removes it from your XML sitemap automatically because Yoast is generating your XML sitemap. So if you want to remove those pages so Google does not crawl those pages, then that would be how you do it. For instance, I don't want Google crawling my confirmation pages whenever someone submits a form. Because theoretically, the only way someone should get to the confirmation page is by submitting the form. And that's why it's set up as a goal. So I go into that page and I go into advanced settings under the Yoast section and I set it to no index. And then it removed from the XML sitemap. And if Google does happen to find it, they will know not to index that page. Now, one of the questions, I think there's an implicit question behind what you're asking, which is, do you want Google to crawl your disclaimer, your cookie page, and your privacy policy?
I thought we didn't want them to do that. That's why I asked. So do we want them to do that?
That's
up to me.
Yeah, that's an interesting question because in one sense, we're not going to get SEO traffic from those pages, right? It's not like the purpose of the privacy policy is to get people searching for privacy policy to land on our page.
Mm-hmm.
But if and I say this is a big if Google believes that it's credible for a website to have a privacy policy and it can't find it, then it wouldn't be able to establish that's a credibility factor. That's a huge if, because I've never heard anybody say that Google expects to see a privacy policy. And if they do, they will give you a reward for that. But if we no index it and it is possible, then it would prevent Google. For these pages, usually what I do is just let them be. I don't try to hide them from Google, but if Google doesn't want to index them, it doesn't hurt my feelings.
Okay.
So you might just leave them.
Okay.
You might just leave them. It might not need any action, and let Google decide what it wants to do with those pages. And it may well ignore a lot of privacy policies are back exactly the same. And so what does Google do when it discovers duplicate content? It ignores it.
Right.
So we don't really care if Google indexes a privacy policy. That's for people, not for the Google bot. And that would be okay. Or a cookies policy or a return policy. You know, maybe return policy, we do want Google to index in case someone says, how do I make a return on on Amazon.com? Maybe then we'd want Google to index that. But
okay.
Yeah, but that's an interesting question. Thank you for asking.
Okay, thank you.